Yes, again, and we are now going to do the next episode of the same, the introduction of the Bhagavad Gita into schools and colleges. In the last episode, we talked about the core teachings of the Bhagavad Gita. We also talked about the challenges which might arise when we are going to introduce Bhagavad Gita to schools and colleges, because we are living in a society which is actually secular. So people from different kinds of religions are studying in schools and colleges. So we might have some kind of challenges to introduce it. And the other things, we also talked about the kind of you can say, especially the nuggets of the Bhagavad Gita, which can benefit the students if they are imparted to them. So, and the things which we are gonna talk about today are going to be quite deep and philosophical, right? And they are the core, I would say, core values of the Bhagavad Gita, which, if inculcated in a person's mind, then they would really emerge victorious in their lives, no matter what sphere of the life they are in,
Right.
right, or they're dealing with. So the question which we have to discuss now is that, tell me, how might studying the Bhagavad Gita improve students' mental resilience and self-awareness, and ability to handle stress.
Okay. First of all, good evening. Let me begin with your the response to your question. I mean, I think it's very positive, first of all, and I must credit to people, and I must credit to even society that we at least you can say accept the reality, the bitter face of humanity, that we are suffering from several such problems in our day-to-day life. We are becoming more anxious. We are becoming so much kind of tensed, and sometimes we feel that we are not able to live our life to the fullest, right? So I mean, as we have discussed in the previous part, that we are introduced with this Bhagavad Gita for a reason, that how we could make our life more easy and comfortable to live, and how we could even live life with more peace, right? So everything which is a part of the Bhagavad Gita always gives explanation of a number of verses, and following this we could really try, after practicing it, we could really ensure that yes, we could be living much like the life which we really want to live. Now when we come to this realization that we human beings are literally suffering from all these kinds of issues, and this is just because of we are becoming too much of materialistic, it's very common, because no problem could arise to that point of extent where it becomes and looks more like unwieldy, and sometimes it goes it unbridled, and it more sounds like that it is almost out of our control. Then I think it is a situation where we are creating it for our ourselves, because we are living in the cutthroat competitive society, right? So we have become so much competitive these days. And when you talk and when you take talk about student, these new age people who are really the responsibility for the nation, as well as they have responsibility towards the nation, right? So these people specifically are dealing with a lot of challenges. I mean, people earlier had lived their life beautifully, they forever, because these days we know that we are moving ahead with this kind of numerous technologies, right? So with the help of this technology, somewhere people are almost getting departed and completely detached from the very sense of understanding natural significance, or the significance of natural world, right? So it is all making them so much kind of disturbed, or it is making them so much kind of confused and bewildered in many ways. So ultimately, if you can see them very closely, uh, browsing your eyes, you will find that students are becoming so much kind of tensed and concerned. I mean, especially at the age where they should be enjoying the life, right? Now Bhagavad Gita, according to me, could be the bestest solution ever. I mean, to all these people. See, when I say Bhagavad Gita could be the solution, I'm including all section of people, students from all varieties, coming from all status, from all departments, and which is even coming right from across the world, not just in India. So, I mean, in how many ways this Bhagavad Gita could really help them, assist them in building up a strong character, right? Mental resilience is something more like a strong, character, right? And one has to practice to build up this character in oneself, and it is only possible when you have some strong inspirations being laid down by some strong figures, like a shining beacons. So when Lord Krishna comes out and says many things to Arjuna, I mean, it becomes established fact that no one can deny these things, right? And it is not just because Lord Krishna has said it, just because of Lord Krishna also says it, that you have to put it in your practice and
Yes.
then feel the difference. So it is not just because of I am saying it. That's what Buddha says, that not because of I am saying something to you, you have to accept it, but because you have to go and have a personal experience with that by performing an act on it, by following it as a part of your routine. So let's now talk about how this Bhagavad Gita could really help assist and be a point of succor to all these kind of students and new age people, those who are youth, specifically in making them out and lifting them out from their their mindset, which is besieged with anxiety and faint-heartedness, right? So the first thing which I'm still reminded of when I was reading Bhagavad Gita, which and that's how practically it provides solution to all the people, even it is being applied not just by students but by even the older people, because it doesn't see the age. No matter what the person coming from whatsoever, they can all be benefited by the verses of Bhagavad Gita, right? So what this Bhagavad Gita says in this, which is an utmost solution for all these students to help them building up their strong character, is that when you look at the verses of the Bhagavad Gita, it is always teaching us to practice moderation, right? So
Yes.
when it teaches us to be moderate, it means a lot, and we need to understand it. We need to understand it from other dimensions too. So, for example, when we are talking about moderation, what it means and what could be the possible, interpretation of moderation. So, I mean, we are living in this competitive, cutthroat society, a competitive society. So, we have a lot of expectations from ourselves, right? this is w- this is you can say this is just on our part. I mean, our parents have expectations from us, our relatives too have the same thing from us. So when you are moving with a lot of pressure on you, I mean, then it is very likely that you are going to collapse, or you are likely to succumb to these kinds of burden, even not today but tomorrow probably, right? So our mental sturdiness or our mental robustness somewhere is likely to get affected, right? Now in this way, when you practice this moderations on the advice, on the recommendations of Lord Shri Krishna, you actually try to inculcate that particular trait in you, which is absolutely, you can say, befitting as a as a as a remedy to the melody. Remedy to the melody means as a remedy to a particular elements. How? Because when you practice this what you can say moderation, you are making yourself convinced on the point that there is nothing like to be to be a materialistic, which could be held as a source for happiness. Many people today right now, specifically youth, when they watch their some famous actors whom they really follow. For example, these days we are all connected with internet services, we are all connected with different social networking sites. So when we follow our own you know famous people whom we really admire for their works, for their contribution to the society, we are much infatuated by their lifestyle more than the work they have done, right? So we, for example, if we take an example of Shah Rukh Khan, people are being inspired, by Shah Rukh Khan, not just because of what he has done. I mean, to reach to that particular acme of his career, but by his lifestyle, how he is being responded by the global world, how he is being treated, and how people, respect him whenever he goes to out of the country, right? So we are much affected and infatuated towards the lifestyle of the people, and thereafter there comes an urge within us, and this urge is very detrimental to the personal self, right? And that is to try to imitate other in the very same fashion, even when we don't have that much of resources. And since we don't have that much resources, we are trying harder to attain that resources. So in the mimicking of other personality, in all ways, somewhere leads us to face a lot of mental traumas. When you have a lot of expectations from you, and unfulfillment of these particular kind of expectations lead you to face a very bitter part of your life, bitter aspect of your life, right? So Bhagavad Gita comes out in this very on this very point and says simply that even when you have an expectation from you, it's okay that you can have an expectation from you, but at the same time you must remember that you should not be attached to the result of your actions, which is really important, and which is the key line of the Bhagavad Gita. One of the few key lines. I mean, almost there are I don't know how many key lines are there, but this is one of the most important key lines of the Bhagavad Gita, which says that everyone needs to be busy and engrossed in their one work or responsibilities whatsoever it is or assigned to that person, but they should not be attached to the result of it. So the fruitive part of the action must be avoided by a doer. That's what the Bhagavad Gita says. Now when you inculcate or any student inculcates this particular behavior and then practice it for over the period of time for let's say 1 to 2 months, then the person and the student will find a lot of positive differences, positive changes. The personality would completely be transformed, would be like more metamorphosized, right? So in that way, when you are not attached to the result of your action, you are more engrossed in your action, then you are absolutely free from the very effect of the results. Now, if you ask personally why these students are getting more affected adversely, then most of them will come out and say that just because of we are not getting the very desirable results, even we are working hard. So not getting the desirable result is the sole reason, so the factor for most of the people and the students to be not feeling good in their life. And the time comes when they go and fall in depression. And this is one of the most important reasons. I mean, most of the students working very hard for IS positions, for administrative services and different positions. Even they work hard, but when they don't get that particular results, they fall in this kind of depressive and despondency state. And it takes them a lot of time and efforts and resources to get completely recuperated, right? So this key, which is given by the Lord Krishna in the Bhagavad Gita, that continue to be a worker or a doer, but try to detach yourself from the fruitive action of your action. When you do that, you are not going to be affected. One thing is very important, and which I find a little more practical today, and this is what students need to focus. So for example, if you are today right now uh, I mean doing any action, right? For example, you are doing something as a part of your activity and this is a part of your business. Since you have we have something to get from this as a result out of it, right? So when you are attached to the result, so two possibilities might be there. So if the results comes in your favor, you are going to be happy, and vice versa, right? In both of the conditions, what is going to happen with you is that you are going to be affected either positively or negatively. So you are going to be affected if the result comes out in your favor. You are going to be cherished, highly elated as someone gets something out of the work. So this very being happy and to be enjoying in this state of elation is also an emotion which should also be controlled. So it's not just your suffering needs to be controlled, but at the same time, Bhagavad Gita says your emotions, which you call a state of happiness, a state of a kind of in ecstasy, that should also be controlled. So if these both things could be controlled, you are actually gaining a state of mind, which is what we have discussed in the previous part, is the equilibrium state of mind or the equanimity state of mind. This is called the equanimous state of mind, right? So this is very important. So next time when any students comes out and tries to practice any work or any particular task whatsoever, or tries to reach to a particular aim, then the student must understand that either of the way he is going to be affected. So on both the part, he needs to be controlled in oneself and try not to be highly emotion or highly, you can say, I mean manifested in their emotions. This is how we control ourselves. So this is all about how we can control our emotions on both the parts. you might have seen, and I think you have heard this, why MS Dhoni is always, is always, called with the name Cool, Captain Cool.
Captain Cool, yes.
Why do we call him Captain Cool? It's very interesting story behind him. I mean, if you look at his all, career and what he has achieved so far, I mean, he has picked up and lifted, I mean, World Cups trophies, right? And
Yes.
on many occasions, you won't find him in a more cherished state, right? As he is in living in some exuberance. So he avoids both emotions. Emotions that gives him some negative, feeling, emotion that gives him some positive feeling. So he is very well controlled, very self-regulated, composed kind of personality, and that's what makes him cool, right? So this is the Bhagavad Gita's teaching. So answer to your question, one or two line, that is, continue to work hard whatsoever you have, or any work assigned to you, but try to detach yourself to the fruitive part of the action. This will help you to develop yourself as a strong character. Your mental resilience will build up, and you will be able to face all varieties of problems which might not be easy for a common person to, to face off, right? So this is on this particular kind of, your question is a response to you. Over to you.
The same kind of thing I found when I was reading a book, and it was somewhere, from the life of Lord Buddha as well, that he always suggests to go with the middle path, right? Because there,
Middle path.
where the
Right.
yeah, because your stress, your anxiety arise from attaching too much with the results, and because results are not in your hands, you've done your thing, you've done the task, you've put in efforts, and now leave everything in God's safe hands, because you have nothing to do with the results. That is, your results will come as per your investment in the kind of job you've done, and the kind of hard work you put in. So I might have shared the same kind of story in one of our videos. So even the Lord Buddha, he was an enlightened one, but the path which he followed was not that easy, right? To reach that particular path where he was then called the enlightened one, it took him several years, right? And he didn't
Right.
even know the right way, so he'd been through many difficulties, and then he found that he was whatever he was doing, that was not actually working, because he was too harsh on himself, right? In the beginning, what he did meditation. He didn't even have anything at all. The whole body turned into a skeleton, and one day
Right.
meditating, he just almost fainted, and then his body was lying on the ground, and
Right.
that particular day, there was going to be a kind of celebration in the village, and a band of people was coming, and they were producing some kind of music, and he heard some words which fell into his ears. The two people were talking. The one was I don't know the kind of instrument he was playing, but yes, so the instrument wouldn't play. He was trying to play, but the instrument wouldn't produce any kind of music because it was too loose. So the person suggested him to tighten the string, and then he tightened it. So he tightened it so much that it would just break. So then he said that tightening it too much is not going to produce any
Right.
kind of melodious music. So you have to keep it in the middle, actually. And these words, when fell into the ears of Lord Buddha, the realization happened, actually.
Right.
The really dawned upon him that whatever he was doing so far was not actually the right way. He should not be going too harsh. He should not be going, he should not be relaxing a lot, but he should be keeping himself in the middle. And then he started following that path of his, and he found that he got enlightened. And
Right.
one more thing that has been suggested by the Lord Krishna, that we should also be doing one thing, and that is called, surrender, right?
Right.
Once you leave everything, after you put in efforts, you've done everything you could, and if you can put your hand on your heart and say, I did whatever I could, then the rest is just mind chattering. If your mind is negative, then it'll always say it was the waste of the efforts, it was the waste of time. And if your
Right.
mind is positive, then it'll say what a wonderful thing I did, right? So once you've done everything, then you should be surrendering everything, and you should be leaving everything in God's safe hands. I'm still
Right.
reminded of the story. It is from the Mahabharata, right? While the battle of Kurukshetra was going to take place, so the people, started camping on the battlefield, and then they were clearing the battlefield because there were so many trees. So they were clearing. While clearing the battlefield, there was a tree. On that tree there was the nest of a sparrow, and because they were felling the trees, so the sparrow thought that now my means here the sparrows
Mm.
chicks were also there in that nest. So she was quite worried about her chicks, and then she saw that Lord Krishna was also there along with Arjuna. Then
Mm.
she got a bit relieved, and because the Lord himself was there, and if she goes to him and she requests him to save the lives of her chicks, then he would definitely be helping her out. She went there, and then she requested that Lord, my chicks are there, and
Mm.
you have to save their lives because they are felling the trees, and this might take their lives. So Lord Krishna said that I cannot do anything because I don't interfere with the nature, right?
Right.
So it has already been planned, and I cannot change it because it will be a kind of interference. So, but he said one thing: I can do something for you, and then you have to take care of yourself. So
Right.
he asked Arjuna to give him the bow and the arrow, and then Arjuna also laughed a bit that what are you going to do with this? Because you are not an archer. So if you
Mm.
want me to shoot something, I will do that. Why do you want me to give you my bows and my arrows? Then he said, just give me and I'm going to do something. Then Lord Krishna shot an arrow at an elephant who was just wearing a kind. No, there was I think there was a bell. It was a massive one. So he hit that bell with the arrow, and the bell came off the neck of the elephant, and that neck, that ring, he Lord Krishna asked the sparrow to enter into that particular bell, and throughout the battlefield they would be safe if they keep themselves inside that bell. And then she did not even question, because
Mm.
she went there and she surrendered herself. She had all the faith. She knew that if I've come to the Lord himself,
Right.
nothing can affect me, nothing can take the life of my kids, because he knows how to save, because he cannot directly save them. He knew that very much. So he suggested her the path. She followed the path without any question, and that is called complete surrender. So when we have done our level best, when we have and did whatever we could, and we can also say that we did everything
Mm.
which we could honestly, then I think we should not be worrying too much about the outcomes,
Right.
because outcomes will be as per your dedication. Outcomes will be as per your you can say, if your mind was if you had nothing negative in your head, if you didn't think ill of anybody, if you didn't do ill of anybody, then I think that the results are going to be in your favor. So there is nothing to be worried about and to be stressed about, right?
Right.
So stress always comes when you are attaching yourself too much with the results, and
Mm.
you haven't surrendered actually, right? Next question which we're going to discuss is, tell me, could introducing the Bhagavad Gita encourage deeper ethical or moral considerations among students? And if it does, then how would this influence their personal and professional choices?
Okay. We need to first see the surroundings. Of this very question that you asked me. I mean, we are talking about ethical values. We are talking about moral values. Every scripture. It's not just Bhagavad Gita. I am including all scriptures. okay, regardless of different faith that it belongs to. One thing's pretty true about it, that all of them are highly, inclined towards making a promotions of how one should inculcate this ethical values in oneself, right? So this is what we can say and accept it as a fact, that all scriptures are there with, I mean, with some moral and ethical teachings for all of us, right? Because, I mean, for example, Bhagavad Gita always talks about moderation. So, I mean, moderation is something which has its ingredients. I mean, moderation has one ingredient also, that is an ethical value, right? So, ethical value is always promoted by, Bhagavad Gita, and there is no doubt about it. I mean, look at the administrative systems where most of the countries work are carried out, and these are the systems which really help you know run the government, right? So these, we are the people who are appointed there, with some task, with some responsibility to go along with and to meet up with all kind of satisfactions of the people, because ultimately those people who are working in these administrations are there to run the country, to govern the country, right? Now when the same people are not playing and exercising and practicing this moderation, I mean, we can't expect them to be behaving in a more ethical manners, because when you talk about moderation and try to correlate it with ethical values and building up ethical values, then you will see that yes, both are to a certain extent almost same, because when you are practicing moderation, you are trying to limit your desires. You're limiting your desires doesn't mean that you should not have a right to have or to behold big dreams, right? It both are different and separate things, so we should not be confused, I mean, and identified both of them as equal, right? So when you are working as a professional and when you are practicing moderation in your profession in all possible ways, you are actually developing ethical values, and you have ethical values, right? Because ethical values suggest one thing, and that is that you need to be working on those moral principles, on those guidelines which are seen as the part of the society, which are standard principles to govern a life. See, I mean, we have our constitution right now, and that constitutions I mean, lays down a number of rules, and we need to abide by all these rules to make the administration work, to make the society work and functions, right? Now, I mean, this constitution is just recently, released to the people, and we call it a democratic tool. But when there was not such a democratic tool, there was something else to actually play the same role and to govern the entire society, to govern the country, to govern the state, and that was these religious books to a certain extent, right? So these religious books were with many verses imposing some sort of restrictions on you. However, their restrictions were not that much, bind towards certain punishments if you're not abiding by it. So there is a little difference. So today, if you commit any crime, and that crime falls in certain kind of sections which actually, extend some punishment for that, so you are going to be punished for that. You are going to be penalized for that, right? Earlier, there was not such, kind of system for the society. If you commit any crime, okay, let's say you be unethical throughout your profession, and there is no surveillance on you, so it becomes really hard to even catch you red handed, right? So let alone giving you some sort of punishments for that particular
Yes.
reasons, right?
Yes.
Now Bhagavad Gita here talks about specifically on how you could develop this ethical values in you while you are performing your duties, while you are being a part of your family, as a member, as a major person, and specifically the one who has a lot of responsibilities, right? So what the Bhagavad Gita simply says is that we have the constitution on the one side, which is putting you under certain restrictions, and if you don't follow these restrictions, you are going to be penalized. But on the other hand, there are certain occasions where there is no surveillance camera on you, but you have to play your role as significant as it could be, as someone is checking you, is someone as monitoring you. And if you play your role, I mean, as if someone is monitoring you, and be in a proper, you know, behavior, you know, behaving with utmost propriety, then you are supposed to be a good character at the end of the day. Where do we fall, I mean, make a mistake or a blunder, or be a little more corrupt, when we find ourselves completely free out of no under any kind of surveillance cameras. I mean, we humans are basically, if you see and if you go and check the histories of human, you will find that we humans are no less than animals. But if
Yes.
you really want to see the animals and the humans, you have to just see them when they are alone. I
Yes.
mean, if you really want to see one's mindset today, you need to just take and grab the cell phone of that boy and check the browse history. You will get to know each and everything about the boy or a person, right? So this is your mental, which is very much personal to you, and no one knows about you, is basically your real personality. Bhagavad Gita comes out and says it is the only time where you have to play ethical,
Yes.
and you have to be more moralistic on this particular point, because if you don't be, then the society is going to collapse. For example, I mean, usually we are not forced and compelled to, part with our success or some sort of wealth with beggars, with people who are in really need. We are not compelled to do that, right? We are only said that if someone comes to you or at your gate with some with some expectation that you would help them in some or other ways, monetary help, financially help, or whatsoever help, I mean, you are not forcefully told to do that. You can escape it, or you can also extend your helping hands. But when you are a little more ethical, out of your ethical values that you have developed within you, inculcated within you, you will try to extend your help to that person. And that's how the society is governed, right? So this is the best teaching of the Bhagavad Gita, which says that when you are ethical as a personality, many things are going to be sorted out. In today's scenario, just tell me one office where there is no prevalence of corruption. And this
Yeah.
corruption is an utmost result of the failure of ethical values in human. When you reach to a certain position, and the position is a kind where you are supposed to be sitting at the top of the hierarchy, and there was no one to question you, to judge you, then it is likely that you are going to commit some sort of corrupt practices, or corrupt, practices, right? And if but this is not possible in the case when someone is ethically very developed and matured. He knows the reality that wealth, materialism, and positions are just for the short time, fleeting, and it has got nothing to do with like as a permanent source to give you happiness. That's what we have discussed earlier, because materialism can never provide you solution as a happiness for 24 hours 7, right? But moderation could have a space for that. It could even ensure you that you could be at least living your life, without being affected. So that's what we have discussed earlier, right? That you need to maintain your mental state in both the possible conditions, success or failure, that it should be remaining the same, not being affected at all, right? So ethical values in this way, Bhagavad Gita, you know Bhagavad Gita's, teach to everyone. So this is my response to your question. Over to you.
Yes, and it's been really very well said that one's personality comes out when one is on his own, right? Because when they are in their own company, then they come in the true colors, and then we can really understand who they really are. Because people are wearing so many masks that it's quite difficult to identify who they really are, right? So in their own company, you can see whether the person is ethical, unethical, or you can say corrupt, or they are maintaining a good personality. They have no stain.
Right.
Right. So the next question which we are going to discuss is, tell me, in what ways can the Bhagavad Gita be represented to avoid any religious biases and instead promote universal values that resonate
Can you?
across faiths?
I missed the last part of it. Can you repeat that
Okay,
question?
so I'm repeating the question once more. Tell me, in what ways can the Bhagavad Gita be presented to avoid any kind of religious biases
Okay.
and instead promote universal values that resonates across faiths?
Okay, I mean, this is nice question. In fact, it should be the first question, reasonably because everyone is hell-bent on promoting their own religions, right? And I think this is their right. Even the constitution of the country also, gives this all space to the people that they could come out openly and they could promote their own religion, but in a more positive way, right? First of all, I mean, there should be a very specific way to represent one religion and the specific ways. And we are very much, clear on this very part. Even the Bhagavad Gita is very much clear on this part. Bhagavad Gita never tells that it should be imposed on people. I mean, that's what I have said in the previous part that nahi jnanena sadrishyam pavitra mahi vidyate tatsvayam ego sansiddham kalinatmani vindate. Which simply means that, even if I'm saying something to you, it is not that you have to admit to that without questioning it, right? So let it be anything. It should be, I mean, being said by Lord Krishna, it should be, it may be anything else. So it is there. You first come and have an experience of it, just take a taste on it and then feel whether it's working for you or not. It provides you some functionality in your life or not. It ensures some sort of some important a kind of or significance, you can say, in your life. And if you find it, then you can go along with that, but you have to practice it, right? So that's what Bhagavad Gita says on this very particular part, right? Now, when you were talking about how it should be introduced so that we could actually avoid this riots and this kinds of this kind of conflict which usually happens in the democratic countries when people are coming from different kind of sectors. So this diversity sometimes make the country vulnerable, undoubtedly, right? Because people have their different ideas, different ideologies and religions. And when someone comes out with a specific idea or ideology, obviously it is treated as an attack on the other party, right? In this way, I always say that Bhagavad Gita needs to be introduced as a book of life rather than a book which has been narrated by or which has been told by Lord Sri Krishna, right? We can, keep this to our own part, right? So for example, I'm talking to you, you are talking to me, we are very much familiar with the Bhagavad Gita, and we don't have any issue about Bhagavad Gita. So we could be, explaining any extreme point on that because no one is going to be hurt. Because here we are talking about something which is significance for life, something which could really help us to produce some good results, some productive results of the life, right? But when you are going and talking pertaining to Bhagavad Gita against someone who is not of your caste, of not of your religion, then you need to be a little bit restrained. So practicing self restraint on that in a way where you are narrating everything, where you are telling everything of the Bhagavad Gita, but in a way that should not be uh, you know showing as an imposition of belief on other. Moreover, in that way which actually suppresses, or you can say, makes people feel that we are trying to be even more kind of i mean um, what you can say, you know denigrating towards other religion. So we should avoid this. So you can say in one word that we need to work on our tone or the way we speak and the way we represent Bhagavad Gita. Because the way we speak about Bhagavad Gitas with the way we represent this Bhagavad Gita, it should not be manifesting that we are going to be, blasphemy or causing blasphemy to other religions. So this is the only point we have to keep in our mind. And if you present this very part of the Bhagavad Gita as what? As that it's a part of life, is a life learning lessons, and then tell them how it could be applied in a more optimistic manner, in a more effective manner, so that some good results could be produced. Then I think everyone will accept it, undoubtedly. I mean, no one would even object this very part of, because everyone wants to live life with all peace, right? So this is what I think could be the best way out to introduce Bhagavad Gita, specifically in college, to avoid all these kinds of religious, conflict, which might be there in a democratic like country like India.
Yes, and as far as I know, I'm concerned, actually, what I believe is if a person is willing to be progressive, and if he or she wants to stay progressive throughout their lives, then they should always be ready to learn something from any place, any, any book, whichever comes, to them, and whichever is made available to them. Because I know personally, I never, become aggressive no matter what. For example, one of my colleagues, he was actually, earlier he was a Hindu, then he converted, then he became a Christian. And he was, once we were traveling together, and he had a book of Christianity. It was all about Christianity, right? He told me that I should be reading this book, and this has got so many good things. And although there are good things in the Bhagavad Gita as well, but I should also be going with the whatever I can find there. So I had no objection, because what I believe is, if I can find something new, something good, I should be reading it at least. No, it's not going to change me. It's not going to
Right.
change my religion, right? How can it change my religion? But if I find something new, something good, and which is going to be a good for me, good for people, right? Who's ever come across, come in contact with me. So I thought, okay, just give me this book, and I'll give it a good read. And when I'm finished, I'll return the book to you. He told me that I should be keeping that book with myself, and the book is still there with me, right? So I think, even though the person said that, this is, all about Christianity, and it is all about Jesus Christ. So if a person is, you can say progressive, of progressive mind, I think they would not be taking it otherwise. But yes, we should not be imposing the religion on anybody, but rather we can say that we are gonna discuss something which is going to change your life. And we are not saying that this is particular book, and because you are from this religion, you should also be reading this. We can
Right.
simply give it as a kind of, course, you can say. We can add
Right.
the teachings of the Bhagavad Gita in the curriculum, and this is how they can be taught. And they will not be then getting offended that we are being taught this particular,
Right.
religious, religion book. So we can teach them in the form of curriculum, rather, without letting them know that this is from this particular, book or religion. So I think,
Right.
they would be accepting this wholeheartedly, and nobody will be getting offended. The next
Right.
thing, which the next and last question, which is really very important, we're going to discuss. And perhaps, we have discussed all the important questions which one should be, no, one should have knowledge about, or one should be reading, or one should be applying in their lives. And the other one, which is actually the last one, we are going to discuss this. And tell me, what role might the Bhagavad Gita play in fostering intercultural understanding, and the global citizenship within the framework of education?
Within the framework of the educations, these days I see too much of clashings taking place, and that too happening on the ground of religion. I think Bhagavad Gita here could come out as a medium of bridge, where without imposing one's own belief on the people, on different people coming from different grounds. I mean, this Bhagavad Gita could really give them a sense everyone is united in a more constructive manner, and that what Bhagavad Gita teaches to people. Since Bhagavad Gita not at all a reflection of extremism of thought, it is almost leading, you can say, on a path of moderation in all senses. So, since the Bhagavad Gita is something about moderation and more focused on spiritualism, then I think spiritualism moderation is something and are something important for all the people living on this planet, to at least be little much educated about it, so that we could really prevent many things from happening which is coming out as a disastrous events for the country, for the entire globe. I mean Bhagavad Gita is applicable in all ways. So for example, as we have seen the effect of excessive materialism practice, I mean the environmental has become the most hard or strongly hit, object. I'm treating environment as an object here, and that is too happening just by our excessively being a materialism. Now, Bhagavad Gita, with this term of moderation, could really teach the entire world that we would have to be moderate, or else the planet could not survive more than 100 years. And this is what is becoming the reality very soon if we don't take any actions right now, and just limit our progress and start living in a more constructive manner. Then I think there is nothing as insurity that we could give for the future generation to come and enjoy as we are enjoying right now. We are we are too much in technologies. It's okay that technology is important for sustaining environment, but as long as the consumption continues to increase among people in the name of materialism, then I think even the technology is not going to be helpful as we think it could be. Because earlier, there were no such technological equipments, and which really led to face a lot of environmental crisis or pollutions. But even today, we have technology, but the crisis is multifold right now. The reason is just because the consumption is continuously peaking up and it's surging high. Now, therefore, the Bhagavad Gita, as a lecture of moderation, as a preaching of moderation, can really make all the people convinced that this is the right time to come and get united and support this particular idea of moderation, and is stop being materialistic, so that the life could be made possible for the other generations to come as we are. I mean, it's not, this fossil fuel, which is almost on the verge of extinction. I mean, fossil fuels after 5 or 6, after 50 or 60 years would be a matter of history as a record for the people to come and students to read about it, what kind of fossil fuels it would be or something like this. And it is not just fossil fuel, many other, biological or use biodiversities, events are as such, which is making us feel that yes, the environmental is at utmost risk and we have to take chances right now. We have to, otherwise things going to be out of our hand. Bhagavad Gita is particular bridge, is a particular instrument that could really give them this very kind of idea or a process or a medium. Because when we say the very words I am reminded of, it's really the most powerful words of the Bhagavad Gita. Karmane evadekaraste ma phaleshu kadachana karma phala hetur mate songoto karmani, which
Yeah.
means continue to do your actions without being attached to the result of it. So there are four important things being laid down in this particular sloka, and these are the most powerful lines of the Bhagavad Gita. If we apply today these four lines, I think the things are going to be completely changed, and we are going to be completely metamorphosized from inside. The first is that you should not be attached to the action, continue to work harder. Second, the enjoyment of the fruit is for the Lord, for the God, whomsoever you please. So we are saying that whatsoever we are doing, the result of it would be for the enjoyment of the God. Our God is Lord Krishna. So we will submit and surrender everything to the lotus feet of the God. You have your different gods, you come out with that particular name. We don't have mind about it, right? So we are not going to be even, you can say, quibbling about it. You have your own god, but follow the practice. I mean, procedure, I mean, following procedure is more important than telling, or even I mean taking the name of the god. You can have your god name, I can have my own god name, right? And the third line, which says that even even I mean, forget yourself to be a doer, because we always take a credit or a pride that we are the
Yes.
doer of this
Yes.
particular task. So this very sense of pride arises within us. This should also be, expunged, completely extirpated, right?
Yes.
These are the three part, and there was a fourth part also. I'm a little bit forgetful about it. What was that fourth part? Which is somewhat similar to this, but these are the three lines, I think, and four lines too, and are very important. And if we provide, or if we explain it to the people, to the global world, I think none of them would come out with their kind of rejections to it, because this is something very eternally universally fact, which cannot be questioned as a validity, which cannot be questioned in any way. Over to you.
And one more thing I would like to say that why we came up with the idea of introducing Bhagavad Gita to schools and colleges, because in Bhagavad Gita the Lord Krishna never says that you should be worshipping me alone. He says that you can call me by any name because I am everywhere in the world, right? And whosoever you call, just it's me who is actually called. Right.
Okay.
And one more thing, he says that he never emphasizes on the religion. He says that you have to do your karmas. You have to detach yourself from the outcomes, and you have to stay. You can say you have to stay positive. And one more thing he says that you have to be very much virtuous, right? If you don't actually defile this world with your negativity, then you are going to enjoy this life. So he never says that no, he never emphasizes any particular religion. That's why we came up with this, because in Bhagavad Gita, nothing, nowhere, no religion has been emphasized. Nowhere, no Hinduism has been emphasized. So it is all about practicalities of life. It is all about the humanity. It is all about the well-being of the whole world and whole universe, right? So that's why we came up with this. It is up to people. They can imply the teachings taught by the Lord Krishna, right? And they can make their lives a heaven on this earth, right? And this whole world will be a heaven on earth, and life will be very, very sweet. Will be a very sweet journey, right? With this, I'm taking a leave, and we will be coming with a very interesting topic to discuss. And I once again I would tell the audience to subscribe to this channel if they want to listen to some good content. If they want us to create some good content for them, then we will be very happy if we get suggestions from them. And for this, they have to subscribe the channel first, right? So that they can continue
Right.
getting such kind of content, right? So now I'm taking a leave. I'll see you next
Yeah.
time.
Good night. Bye.
Good night. Bye.